Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing Law on the Beltway. Our news and notes for this week, and we have a lot to talk about this week. A couple of bouts coming up this weekend on national television featuring our Beltway boxers. We're going to give you the whole June schedule that we have so far. Let me say that because there may be more added to it even as we speak. As always seems to be the case. We're going to recap some of the bouts that took place last week, as far as the some of the cards that were on during the week. Couple of bouts in Atlantic City, one in Niagara Falls, and we'll also get you ready for the June 11th card at the ABC Sports Complex, Springfield, Virginia. We will also talk about a little bit more about the ABC Sports Complex card this Saturday, June 4th. At the ABC Sports Complex, and I'll just have some random thoughts to finish things off afterwards. So, as you say, a lot going on, as we always say in the Beltway, and we start this weekend because not only do we have the Saturday, June 4th card at the ABC Sports Complex, Springfield, Virginia. That's the Jetta Promotions card. Don't have any more real update on that. I think we need to add that Mark Johns will be on that card. I don't know if I said that last week, but Jerome Quigley, Jerry Odom, Devontae Speed Rawls, Yuri Polishuk, all going to be on that card coming up June 4th. We'll have the call for you Saturday evening, June 4th, starting around 8 p.m. Eastern Time from the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia, right here on the Boxing Law on the Beltway Google app for Androids. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you download the app for Google Play or for Android. If you're on the iOS systems, you can hear it on your computers or on your iPhones by going to the Boxing Law on the Beltway pages on Spreaker.com as well as iHeartRadio.com. So we have those bouts coming up June 4th. Now, two Beltway boxers will be on national television coming up this coming weekend, June 3rd and June 4th. We talked a little bit about the June 4th card. That was the June 4th bout. That was David Grayton taking on Brian Perella. Battle of undefeated boxers at the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So looking forward to that coming up June 4th. That'll be on ESPN. But on Friday, June 3rd, from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, undefeated Baltimore, Maryland lightweight Gervonta Tank Davis returns to action, and he returns to national television. He'll face the former world title contender Mario Huracan Macias Orozco. He's out of Iztacalco, Distrito Federal in Mexico. And that'll be in an 8-round bout. So it's kind of on the surface anyway, it looks like a stay busy fight for Gervonta at this point. Davis is 15-0, 14 KOs, coming off a 6-round TKO over Guillermo Avila. And that was about scheduled for 10 rounds. And that took place here in D.C. on April 1st at the D.C. Armory. That was on the undercard of actually one of the featured bouts because we did make television on Spike TV at the D.C. Armory in D.C. Now, this bout will also be shown on Spike TV, and the show will be start at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the PBC on Spike. And this will be Davis's 4th straight appearance on national television. Now, Orozco, even though it looks like a stay busy fight, isn't any joke. So this could be an interesting bout for him. Orozco is 28-18 with 14 KOs. He's won 2 of his last 3 bouts, including a 7th round stoppage of Mateo Perez Vasquez. That was on May 6th in Chiapas, Mexico. Now, Orozco back in December of 2011 challenged Koki Kameda for the WBA bantamweight title. That was in Osaka, Japan, and he lost by a 4th round knockout. So, again, on the surface, it looked like a stay busy fight. But as we'll find out a little bit later on in this podcast, sometimes the bouts that look like stay busy don't end up being that way. And they end up being a major problem sometimes, and sometimes a major setback. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later on in this podcast. So that is June the 4th coming up. June 3rd, Friday, June 3rd. That'll be on Spike TV from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Gervonta Davis taking on Mario Orozco. Okay, and that'll be an 8-round bout. Now, last week we went over the Saturday, June 4th card at the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia, and we'll be very busy over there. We've already been there once in the last couple of weeks. That was a couple weeks ago. for a card there. That was the Scott Farmer Left Hook Promotions card. And we'll be there again for the Jetta Promotions card. And then on Saturday, June 11th, 1 week later, we'll be back at the ABC Sports Complex for a Ponytail Promotions, Show Enough Promotions. That's James Hogan representing Ponytail Promotions, and Tori Nelson, the world champion, representing Show Enough Promotions. They've got a pretty good card on hand as well. And that'll be on Saturday, June 11th. And the main event of the bout will be a contest, a 10-round contest for the vacant IBO, International Boxing Organization, International Bantamweight title. And it'll match Silver Spring, Maryland Bantamweight, Alexandru Spartan Marine. And he'll take on the biggest challenge of his young career. He'll take on Johnny the Law, I believe it's pronounced Dieterman, from Dallas, Texas. And it'll be about scheduled for 10 rounds. Neither boxer has gone 10 rounds in their career. In fact, neither boxer has gone past 6 rounds in their career. Marin is a native of IC, Romania. And I'll never forget the first time I had a chance to see Marin in action. His countryman, George Murison, the former basketball player, came to see his bout. And he was at a card recently. And in fact, he was at the, I'll tell you about, it was the Lucian Boutte Purdue Jack bout at the DC Armory. And of course, Boutte is originally from Romania. So Murison was at that card. So I'm curious to know whether he'll be at this show coming up on June 11th. Marine is 11-0, 8 KOs, coming off a third-round knockout over Miguel Del Valle. That was on March 5th in Norfolk, Virginia. Dieterman is 10-1, 8 KOs. He'll try to bounce back from his first loss, which was a 6-round unanimous decision to Oscar Mojica on January 16th in Dallas, Texas. So this is a nice step up for Marin. I looked at Dieterman's record, and he hasn't fought. Mojica was probably the best opponent that Dieterman has had in his career. Other than that, he hasn't fought a whole lot of great people. And for that matter, neither has Marin. I think Marin has fought a little bit more boxes over 500. But really, they fought about the same competition, and they're taking steps up in competition facing each other. And that should be very interesting to see what happens on that. I'm looking forward to that one. So that's the main event. Alexandru Spartan Marine taking on Johnny Dieterman. 10-round bout for the vacant International Boxing Organization International Bantamweight title, and the main event on Saturday, June 11th. Now, other bouts on this card. Eric El Torito Hernandez will take on, believe it or not, and this is so weird how this happened. You remember back on the card, the Left Hook Promotions card a couple weeks ago, there was a boxer on that card by the name of Terry T-Brick Roy. And he was a guy from Front Royal, Virginia. And originally when the bout was put on BoxRec, they thought there's another Terrence T-Brick Roy that fights out of Covington, Tennessee. He's a lightweight. And a lot of people thought that he was fighting Earl Platt that night. But Earl Platt, as we know, is a cruiserweight. So once we got that squared away, it turned out to be T-Brick Roy from our area. Well, it just so happens that Eric Hernandez will take on that other Terrence T-Brick Roy, who's out of Covington, Tennessee, a veteran to say the very least, in a 6-round bout. Hernandez is 7-0, 4 KOs. He last fought in that Norfolk card at Masonic Temple. That was the last Ponytail Promotions, Show Enough Promotions card. Won a 5th-round technical decision over Daryl Jones. And that was a weird bout because Hernandez had suffered an eye injury, and the bout was stopped. And since it was stopped, I believe in the 5th round, Daryl Jones won originally by technical decision. Well, the Hernandez camp decided to appeal, won the appeal, and the Virginia Commission overturned the decision and gave the win to Hernandez. So that's his last bout. 7-0, 4 KOs. Hernandez had a very busy 2015. He was one of our busier rookies of last year and one of our top rookies of last year, and probably would have fought a couple more times, but a couple of bouts fell out on him. So we'll see what happens. Now, he's facing a veteran to say the very least. We said 11-50, 2 KOs. That's the record for Terrence T-Brick Roy. 11 wins, 50 losses, 2 KOs. He's lost 6 straight bouts, all by knockout. And out of his 50 losses, Roy has had 40 knockout losses. And Roy will face a Beltway boxer for the 4th time in his career. He's lost by knockout to Thomas K.O. Snow, Ty Barnett, and the former IBF world champion Eric Aiken. And Roy actually fought Aiken twice, losing a 6-round unanimous decision in their first outing. That was at the Lincoln Theater back, I believe, 2003 or so. in Washington, D.C. So that's another bout. Eric Hernandez against Terrence Roy. Now, we talk about Darryl Jones out of Jacksonville, Florida. He lost that bout to Eric Hernandez. He now will face Seth Killer B. Billups out of Ashburn, Virginia, lightweight, and it'll be in a 6-round encounter. Jones, as we said, out of Jacksonville, Florida. Billups is 8-0, 6 KOs. He will go into 6-rounders for the very first time in his career. He comes off a 4-round unanimous decision over Corey Kent on that March 5th card in Norfolk. Jones, who's 3-16-1 with 1 KO, fought once since the loss to Hernandez. He lost by first-round TKO to Boubacar Silla. That was on April 23rd in New Cumberland, West Virginia. That's another bout there. Seth Billups against Darryl Jones. There'll be a light heavyweight bout between Mario Bazooka Flores out of Rockville, Maryland. He'll take on Greg Hackett out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Flores is 6-1-2, 4 KOs, turning action for the first time since winning a 4-round split decision over Marcellus Yates on October 20 of 2014 in Fort Washington, Maryland, over at Rosecroft Raceway. Hackett is going to give Flores problems, and I want let me rephrase that. Maybe not problems, but it might be difficult because Greg Hackett can be very, very elusive. He can be very, very tough to deal with. He comes back after a long absence. He hasn't fought since May of 2014 when he took on Issa Kula Bailey and fought him to a 4-round majority draw in Washington, D.C. at the Convention Center. That could be ugly, in all honesty, because Hackett will try to make it ugly as best he can. And we'll see if Flores, who hasn't been in action since October of 2014, they've been out almost about the same time. And that could be interesting. Okay, that'll be a 4-round bout. That could be very interesting as well. So we'll see. Mario Bazooka Flores against Marcellus Yates. Also on the cards, Seat Pleasant, Maryland featherweight James Too Slick Early. Now, he's a guy that has been busy so far in his rookie year. He comes back for a 4-round bout against Alan Beeman of Providence, Rhode Island. Early just fought on May 14th. That was the card at the Maryland State Fairgrounds in Timonium, Maryland. You heard that card here on Boxing on Beltway Google app for Android. And he won, a 4-round unanimous decision over Taishe Ferguson in Timonium, Maryland. Beeman is 0-12, and he's lost his last 7 contests by knockout. And that was including a 3rd-round TKO to Mark Johns on April 9th right at the ABC Sports Complex. Now, other boxing schedules to be on this card include heavyweight Mike Ballaghan, along with Jerry Slug Forrest out of Newport News, Virginia, and lightweight Matthew Abregu is also scheduled to be on this card as well. So that'll be on Saturday, June 11th, and that'll be from the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. We'll have to call that bout card as well. We'll give you a time on that a little bit later on. So those are just some of the things that are going on in the June schedule. But we have the whole June schedule in front of us, and this could be a very, very exciting time. We've talked already about June 3rd with, well, first of all, let's go about inside the Beltway first. We already talked about the Saturday, June 4th card, ABC Sports Complex, Springfield, Virginia, Jetta Promotions card. We're on the air once again, 8 o'clock on the Box on Beltway Google app for Android and on Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio.com. There'll be an amateur card at the Freddie Gray Empowerment Center located in Baltimore, Maryland. Calvin Ford and Rise Promotions doing that card Saturday, June 4th. I believe it starts around 6 o'clock or so there. We've already talked about the Saturday, June 11th card. Thursday, that's the ABC Sports Complex Ponytail Promotions Show Enough Promotions card on June 11th. Then on Thursday, June 16th, at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland, an amateur boxing card put on by Jake Smith, which is called, and I love the title of this event. It's called For Those Who Are About to Rock. And it'll be at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland. TJ Mottinger out of Dellinger will be at Mottinger. Out of Seaford, Delaware, who was a novice champion in the Golden Gloves this year, a regional novice champion in the Golden Gloves this year. He'll be on that card. Tommy Coe, a young lady by the name of Destiny Day Owens will be on this card, and she's a rising amateur in the out of the Baltimore Boxing Gym, Jake Snake Smith gym, and Jake is telling me that somewhere very soon he may go back to doing pro cards. And I'm telling you, he had some great pro cards back in the day. He feels he has the talent coming out of his gym to do some more pro cards, do some pro cards, and he's looking forward to doing that in the not too distant future. So we'll keep your eye on that one. That's Thursday, June 16th, Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland, amateur boxing card. There'll be another amateur boxing card on Friday, June 17th, Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland. That's the PVA, Petroleum Valley Association Junior Olympic Fight Night, and they're raising money to send the juniors to Dallas, Texas. We talked about that last week. June 26th through July 2nd. And again, they budgeted for 12, but they ended up getting 20, I believe 21 boxers going to the the Junior Olympic Nationals. And so they're raising money for that. And that's Friday, June 17th at Rosecroft Raceway. Then on Saturday, June 18th, there's a pre-Father's Day Fight Fest at the Last Round Boxing Club in Waldorf, Maryland. That's a brand new boxing facility run by Dean O'Neill, a coach and also a member of the PVA and a referee, and has done some judging as well for the Petroleum Valley Association. So he has his brand new location in Waldorf, Maryland, Last Round Boxing Club, and they have a card Saturday, June 18th. In Waldorf, Maryland. So those are the cards coming up in-house in the area. Now, boxers traveling around the country. We talked about Gervonta Davis on Friday, June 3rd. Also on Friday, June 3rd, is a guy by the name of Marquise Moore. Now, Marquise Moore is a guy that I had a chance to watch for a long time in the amateurs here in the area. He's originally from Fort Washington, Maryland. However, when he became 18, he went into the armed forces and was stationed out of Fort Carson, Colorado. He now lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and has fought the rest of his amateur career out there, where he became a two-time National Golden Gloves champion. And he made his pro debut back in April of this year and won by knockout. He's 1-0, 1 KO, scored a first-round knockout. And he's back in action on Friday, June 3rd at Resorts World Casino in Queens, New York, in a 4-round bout against a opponent to be named. So we wish him the very best, of course. And Marquise Moore, good young man. Very happy to see him doing well. And we'll be following his progress. Even though he lives out in Colorado Springs, he started off as a Beltway boxer, and we're going to follow his progress throughout. Also on Saturday, June 4th, we've talked about David Grayton taking on Brian Perella at the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That's in a 10-round bout that'll be shown on ESPN. Also on Saturday, June 4th, at the Grundy Arena in Bristol, Pennsylvania, Linwood Mr. Composure Dozier out of Suitland, Maryland. He'll take on Derek Webster. He's undefeated. I believe he's out of New Jersey, and that'll be in a 6-round contest there, the Grundy Arena in Bristol, Pennsylvania. Then on Saturday, June 11th, at the theater in Madison Square Garden, Mike Yes Indeed Reed returns to action. He'll take on Abraham Bombi Cordero in an 8-round encounter. That'll be on Saturday, June 11th. On Saturday, June 25th, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, Swift Jared Hurd returns, and he'll take on Oscar Molina in a 10-round contest. That'll be shown on CBS. That's on the card that features Keith Thurman taking on Sean Porter. Now, I believe the bout will be shown on CBS. It may be on the Sports Network, but right now, I think they're kind of splitting it up a little bit. And so I believe the bout will be on CBS itself. Saturday, June 25th, and this will be through July 2nd, the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. We talked about this. The Junior Olympic National Championship will be held there. Then on Tuesday, June 28th, at the Sam's Beltway Event Center in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Mike Fox scheduled to be in a 6-round encounter there. An opponent is to be determined. So that is June, and we should talk about July for one reason and one reason only. And this has not been officially put out in the media yet, in the mainstream media. However, both combatants in this situation have posted this as if this is going to be the next bout. So I'm going by their word, and we'll see what happens. But the date is Saturday, July the 16th. WBC light heavyweight champion Adonis Stevenson will put his title on the line against our very own Thomas Top Dog Williams Jr. Now, right now, the bout is scheduled to be in Quebec, Canada. I'm guessing the Bell Center, but I'm not sure. They haven't said where in Quebec it's going to be. We'll be on TV. Again, they haven't said which network. I'm guessing Showtime, but we'll see. But we do know the fight is happening, according to both men on the ledger. That is going to happen. So that is something going to be incredible. And it's a big, big step. We saw the step coming, of course, with Williams's big win over Edwin Rodriguez earlier this year. And we knew that this bout was supposed to be on the horizon. I wasn't sure it was going to happen so soon. And I know a lot of people will say, well, he's not ready for it. But suffice to say, it's a big bout for Thomas Williams, of course. And we'll see what happens. But that's Saturday, July 16th from Quebec City, Canada. I'm guessing the Bell Center in Montreal. We'll see. I've also been hearing word that they may try to move the bout somewhere else. That is Adonis's home area. That's where he fights out of. So we'll see if that happens. But I'm not sure if Williams will care where it is. He wants that opportunity. He deserves that opportunity. Right now, he's ranked number 9th in the world by the WBC. I'm looking for that to go up well before the bout in July. So we will see. So that was a great situation there. Now, recap a couple things that's come on this past week. Of course, Malik Hawkins scored a nice knockout win in his bout against Richard Tiger Lee Hall. And I'm wondering why they didn't use Richard. That's his name, Richard Lee Hall. He's never been known as Lee. I've known about Tiger Lee Hall since he started. I mean, he fought so many of our Beltway boxers. That was the 10th Beltway boxer that Tiger Lee Hall has fought over the years. And I always wonder why they didn't use Richard. I don't know. But I knew there was a Richard Hall that was like here when he fought out of this area too. Richard the Destroyer Hall fought out of this area by way of Jamaica, and he fought out of Florida as well. One of our very own J.D. Brown used to manage him at one time. So I'm wondering if they try to mix him up with him. I don't know, but I don't know why they didn't use it. But anyway, Malik Hawkins did very well. Scored a 5th round TKO over Hall, and fought very well. Broke him down. Interesting because it was much the same way that Jerome Quigley did the same thing last year to 2014 to Richard Hall. So, you think about down the road or about between Malik Hawkins and Jerome Quigley, but it's got to be way down the road. And of course, it's got to mean something along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that because Malik Hawkins is doing very well. That was a nice win over a veteran. I mean, he was the most experienced boxer that Hawkins has fought in his career. And again, Hawkins has fought everybody, especially a whole bunch of people in this area. And I was glad to see Hawkins come out with the big win. That was at Niagara Falls, New York, at the Seneca Niagara Casino and Resort. Excuse me. Now, at the Claridge Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City, on this past Friday night. Two of Beltway boxers, quite frankly, did not do well. Willis Lockett lost a unanimous decision to Chuck the Professor Musacchio. Musacchio's first bout in more than 3 years. And as I said last week, Lockett came in very overweight, and Musacchio did enough to win that bout. He wanted pretty much going away in that situation. So that was pretty much to be expected, in all honesty, even though the first time these two guys fought, they fought to a draw. The other event on that card was not expected. And there's some people who won't like what I'm going to say in this situation. Nick Kisner, who I've been following since he was an amateur, one of the best amateurs that's come out of this area in a long time. He was very accomplished as an amateur and overall very accomplished as a pro. He had 2 losses prior to Friday night, which were losses where he came in as the underdog. The first loss he had against the 7-0 guy, that was in Chicago, Illinois, and a lot of people thought he won that bout. The bout against Latif Coyote in Memphis, Tennessee last year, I thought he fought well early, but I think he got worn down, even though he went the full 10, and very few people have done that against Coyote. But even that was a loss that Kisner could build on. And you don't want to take too many steps back from coming out of the bright lights like that. At least that's my personal opinion on that. And you looked at some of the bouts that Kisner took after that bout. And we saw one recently, heard one recently here on the Box on Beltway Google app for Android. We took on Dan Show. Now, prior to the Coyote fight, he took on Marlon Hayes. And I don't think to this day that fight prepared him well for the Coyote fight. It was an awkward fight. Kisner didn't look his best. He got into the conversation in the ring and trying to play. And granted, he was awkward and he's hard to look his best against. So I understand that, but I don't think it prepared him for the situation. The Show fight, I think, was hard because Show was so tough more than anything else. It wasn't anything that Kisner didn't do in that situation. And Kisner did what he was supposed to do and won about pretty much going away. But he walked into a bout against Lamont Capers, who, as I said before, I've seen him twice now. And I've heard about it. I think I saw one on the bout on the internet with him. And he makes you look very awkward. And in the two bouts he fought against Travis Reeves, as I said many times now, he looked awkward. Now, originally, a lot of people have not said this, but originally, Kisner was supposed to fight a guy named Anthony Caputo Smith, who Travis Reeves knocked out in the first round of their bout. And I wonder in what I guess what kind of bugged me. Not that I would have gone if I could have, but I had to go to a funeral that particular day. But Kisner had a media workout, open workout, not media workout, open workout, I guess to bring his fans in. So that's fine. But usually, and this is just usually, you don't have a open workout preparing for a boxer who is 5-8-2 going in. And again, I wasn't there, so I don't know how it went. And I heard it went pretty well, which is fine. But I gotta think there's some sort of loss of focus there. And I could be wrong about that, but I had to think of some sort of loss of focus in that situation. And so, according to reports on that card against Lamont Capers, yes, he made Capers' nose bleed, but he didn't get off the way he normally does, according to a couple reports. Now, one report said that Capers landed the harder blows. I would question that, just based on what I know about Lamont Capers. Lamont Capers has never knocked out anybody. Now, what he could have meant to say was he landed more blows, which could be the case. And I would buy that because that's what made him kind of look awkward. That made Reeves look awkward, especially in the first bout between the two. Reeves took some time getting his offense squared away. And although he won the bout going away, took him a half a round to get himself going. Second bout, much better. Reeves was offensive minded and did the job. Kisner has a tendency sometimes to play. And when he feels that a boxer is not on his level, sometimes he does play around. Has his hands down low. And sometimes tries to talk and move and all that. He does things that other cruisers don't do, which is to his credit, which is to his benefit. But it could be that the judges up in New Jersey don't go for that and don't like seeing that and don't give him the credit for doing it. Add to the fact that he lost a point in the 7th round. That probably hurt him as well. So I don't know how close the bout was, and maybe my comments are a little out of line since I didn't see the bout. But knowing both men as I do, and especially knowing Kisner as well as I do, and seeing a lot of his fights over the years, this is not a good look right now. and maybe he was looking ahead because again, he was talking about, the fight against a possible fight against, Samuel Clarkson at 175. Right now that doesn't happen. Okay. It doesn't happen right now. There's no reason to put it on right now. Can Kisner come back from this? Of course he can. No question about it. He can definitely come back. He has the talent to do so, and he has the camp to do so. But now he just has to do so. And that's where the issue is with this. And that's, I wondered why he took, I wonder why he took the fight once the bout was changed. He could have just focused on trying to get down to 175 and facing Clarkson. Who knows? But if he looked at it as a stay busy fight, as we talked about earlier, if he looked at it as a stay busy fight, he obviously didn't know who Lauren Capers was. And, Travis Reeves right now arguably may be the best cruiserweight in this area. Definitely the best cruiserweight prospect in this area. And that may be an issue coming forward, for Kisner. So Kisner, whoever he comes back against, he not only has to win, but right now he has to be in a situation where he has to look good doing it. He needs a good looking win coming down the pipe. So again, he has the talent to do exactly that. And I'm definitely going to look out for him. Definitely going to support him. But that was a big loss. No question about that. That was a big loss, and he has to recover from that. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, finally, earlier today I had a chance to listen to a couple of boxing podcasts, and they were talking about the overall state of boxing. And I want to direct this primarily to a lot of the other boxing bloggers and reporters in this area, and those of you who follow boxing and who write about boxing in your own area. One of the podcasts I listen to, and I'm going to say who it is, I do like the podcast, and I love what they do, is a podcast called The Boxing Ring. It's called the Tale of the Tape boxing podcast. It's done by theboxingrant.com. And I like the guys. I really do. And they're local guys. They're Virginia guys. And I like what they do. And I think they do an outstanding job in breaking down the worldwide fights. But here's my issue. They complained in the most recent podcast, and I suggest you all listen to it. It says the Vargas Salido preview. So, I rarely promote other people's podcasts, but I don't mind. I don't care. As long as boxing gets promoted, that's all I care about, really. I'm not in competition with the Boxing Rant, and that's one of my points, as a matter of fact, coming up. But they complained, and they had a right to complain. I agree with it to an extent, that some of the biggest things that are going on in this business right now, as far as what people are talking about in this business, are this silliness involving Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, whether or not they'll hook up. Who cares? And also this Twitter beef between a guy that I know pretty well, LC Sekback, ES Sports, and the celebrity host on Extra, and a big boxing fan who's done some boxing work as an announcer, Mario Lopez, used to be on Saved by the Bell. And they're into a Twitter feed. And they're really complaining about how bad this is and how bad this looks on boxing. My response to that is, who cares? Why do you care about that? Ignore that garbage. And they're talking about how the PBC is bad, and they're talking about, and I've heard other people, I'm not just basing this on what Boxing Rant does, but other people put maybe how the PBC is bad and all. And that is the exact reason why I never wanted to talk about this sport of boxing on a national, international level. That's why I didn't want to do it. Because outside the Beltway, this sport overall means very little to me. And I don't have the time to follow up on everything that goes on in boxing. And I'm just repeating what my own website, fightnews.com, not my website, but the website I write for, fightnews.com, talks about, and what Max Boxing talks about, and what Boxing Scene talks about, and Queensberry Rules, and Stiff Jab, and all these other well-known and well-respected boxing websites do. So what I did was decide to concentrate on a niche in this sport that when it approaches the national level and international level, that's when I talk about that. So a lot of these bouts we just talked about earlier in this podcast, that's talking about national level now, because they're on ESPN, they're on Spike TV, they've been on NBC, CBS, all throughout the boxing world. That's when I approach the national level. But right now, other than being a fan of boxing, as a fan, then yeah, I'll talk about the stuff. But as a reporter, as a writer, as a commentator, I could care less. I couldn't care less about anything else in boxing other than what happens right here. Now, here's my challenge to all the bloggers that live here and all the bloggers that live in your local boxing area. My challenge to you is this. I need to see the bloggers that are in this area coming to the club shows in this area. See, most of the time, I only see them when the big bouts come through. Now, I saw them all through when Tony Thompson fought Luis Ortiz, or when Broner fought Theophane, or when the super middleweight doubleheader came through there, or even when Dusty Harrison fought Mike Downs Jr. But am I going to see him at the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia? I got an answer for you on that one. No. Am I going to see them at a club show at Rosecroft Raceway? No. And don't tell me you don't have time. All right? I got a wife and 3 kids and a full-time job, and I do some other things around the side. Okay? And it's been that way for almost the entire 33 years now, coming up to June, 33 years of me doing this business. I've had full-time jobs during that time period. When I started doing boxing, before I got married, my wife, when I started doing Boxing Spotlight, my wife was involved in Spotlight. My soon-to-be wife was involved with Boxing Spotlight. We've had 3 kids during this situation. 2 adopted, 1 is a birth child. I've had jobs galore. I've had teaching jobs. I've worked at a cemetery. I had 2 jobs at one point. One was a full-time, one was a part-time. But all this time, I was able to focus on this area and go to the majority of cards here in this Beltway. And not just the big cards, folks. This is what I'm talking about. Not just the big cards. The cards where you see the next prospects. The cards where you see the not as big lighting. Okay? Not as great lighting. The atmosphere may be totally different. You're dealing with real boxing fans that come to those shows. I don't see you guys there. I don't see a lot of the bloggers at those shows. But yeah, I'll see them in the big cards. They strutting around with their cameras and their microphones and all that, being big. And I'm glad they're there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not upset that you're there. But don't complain about this sport if you're not going to support it at the grassroots level. And see, that's where I think the Boxing Rant and some other people are missing the point here. Because you've got to support this situation at the grassroots level. Because that's where this boxing is going to be building from. Okay? All this stuff that they're talking about here and some of these bouts they're talking about that aren't that great, their job is to talk about that. That's fine. Okay? But understand that there's a level of boxing in this business that is just fine. And that is the prospect level. When you start seeing these guys in their first bout, second bout, third bout, okay, they move from the 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders. That's where the boxing is pure. That's where the boxing is enjoyable. It's not always the elite boxing, true. And like I said, I've made so many comments about what goes on in North Carolina in that situation, I'm blue in the face. But the fact is, the joy that I have had for so many years is seeing the prospects from this area grow from prospect to contender to champion. And that's what makes this so great to me. And everybody talks about how we don't get a lot of coverage of boxing in this area. And I'm going to use this area as an example. But if your bloggers who are here in this area don't come out and support en masse, Juan and I can't do it by ourselves. It can't be just the Wallace Barons taking the photos. You know, it can't be always the Mike Greenhill taking the photo, although Mike Greenhill, his schedule is busy, so I understand that. But Wallace Barron is always there. We got a couple other photographers that are doing the job on a somewhat regular basis as well. But 9 times out of 10, the only reporters that are there from this area at a show like we're going to see Saturday, June 4th at the ABC Sports Complex are myself and Juan Marshall. And folks, that has got to change. And wherever you live in this area, wherever you live in this country, wherever you live in this world, if you consider yourself a boxing reporter, if you consider yourself a boxing fan, you need to go support your club shows. Because that's where the boxing is pure. That's where there's not a whole lot of issues that we've been talking about lately. You know, the drug issues like the Boutte situation after the bout on April 30th. You know, a lot of commission problems. Yeah, we have our issues. Yeah, there are problems that Juan and I are the only people that highlight that situation because we're the only ones there. But don't complain about the overall structure of the sport or the condition of the sport if you are not going to help that condition by supporting it at the grassroots level. That's the reason why the boxing area, the boxing world has been talking about Mario Lopez and the whole thing with McGregor and Mayweather. Because you're not helping build the sport with the power that you have behind a microphone, behind a computer, and building whatever area is in there. I don't see these guys from the boxing ring at any show in this area. And I know for sure that they can get in any show in the area. If they have to, they can call me. And I can vouch for them if I need to. They can get in contact with me. Beltwayboxing@hotmail.com. They can get in contact with me, and I'll vouch for them. I know where they are. But these club shows are begging for the attention of local people. That's been my goal in this since day one. I said before, I have never been selfish about the amount of boxing coverage we get in this area. The more the merrier. That's what I've always said since the day I started doing this. I'm talking about 33 years ago. Not just doing the podcast, not just doing boxing along the Beltway. I'm talking about from the moment I decided I wanted to cover boxing. I wanted more people to get involved. I make phone calls, I make emails to other media in this area, mainstream media primarily, about what's going on. Okay? I do that. But a lot of these other bloggers in this area and a lot of other bloggers in this country. So I admire people like, for example, my buddy George Hansen up in Philadelphia. I love him. I love what he does because he talks about the national scene. That's fine. But he also supports the local cards. He's been like 4 or 5 times the Pennsylvania Boxing Writer of the Year. And John DeSanto does the same thing up there. When you got guys like Kurt Wolfheimer and Rick Schomburg. I'm not sure how much Rick Schomburg does these days, but Kurt Wolfheimer, who's been a friend of mine for years, you know, they go to these shows. And then you look at guys like guys that I learned under, and I've talked about these guys before: Jack Obermeyer, J.R. Jowett. These guys not only go to their own area, they go halfway around the East Coast, sometimes around the country, going to these bouts. They travel. And they cover the club shows. They don't cover the huge shows. They have to struggle like me sometimes, and why the show is supposed to start at 7:30 doesn't start till 9 o'clock. You know? And they complain about it. I love when Jack Obermeyer complains about this stuff. But I'm just saying. And of course, one of my favorite complaints is when J.R. Jowett comes to Maryland and they do the national anthem. Of course, they do that old thing they do. He hates that. Oh, he hates that with a passion. But those are the things that make it so much fun to cover those club shows. And J.R. and J.R. Jowett and Jack Obermeyer, they're the kings of that. And Ken Hisner every now and again up in there, he'll come down every now and again and join us. But, I mean, that's what's fun about this business. So I don't even complain about the stuff that goes on nationally because I don't care. I truly do not care unless it affects what we do here. So I need you all, other bloggers in this area, in the Washington, D.C. area, Virginia, and Maryland, come to the show June 4th at the ABC Sports Complex. Come to the show June 11th at the ABC Sports Complex. Come to these shows and support these shows because this is where you're going to see the next wave of talent. This is where it's going to be. And not to say you should not talk about the big things that you do and you do so well. And you do. And these blogs do a great job of covering the worldwide scene. But they live here. They live in this area. You have bloggers around the country who live in their country. And I'm willing to bet you a lot of them don't go to these club shows. That has to change, folks. And that's how boxing survives going forward. My rant is over. Don't forget, we will see you and talk to you. Hopefully we'll see you, more than likely. Hopefully we'll see you June 4th for the first of 2 straight boxing broadcasts from the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. We're on the air at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, p.m. on Saturday, June 4th with the Jetta Promotions card. And then 1 week from Saturday, we're there at the ABC Sports Complex for the Ponytail Promotions, Show Enough Promotions card. Should be a lot of fun. Should be great bouts all the way through. That'll do it for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes. Remember, support the Boxing Law Beltway Google app for Android by downloading the app. And if you are on iOS, you can visit the pages on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio.com, both Boxing Law and Beltway pages. So the Boxing Law and Beltway pages on Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio.com. You can not only listen to this podcast live, you can also listen to a number of podcasts dating back. We have more than 300 shows on the Boxing Law and Beltway Google app for Android, the iHeartRadio page, as well as the Spreaker.com page. 300 shows you can listen to, more than 300 shows you can listen to at any time on those sites. So make sure you download the app or listen to the sites. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Always reminding you, I should say, to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.